Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Berk of Heraclea. Berk, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Cameron. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'd like to kick things off with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
I was born and raised in Turkey, a different country in between Europe and Middle East. I was born in a city called Ankara, which is the capital, and then I moved to Istanbul, which is a very famous city. Maybe you've heard, maybe you've been.
Yeah.
Um, and then I came to the States for college with the ambition of becoming an attorney, actually,
Hmm.
which I did. After college, I went to law school. Um, then I took the bar and started working
Hmm.
in a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. But then, transitioned into this business, which I can talk more about later. But
Yeah.
my childhood was really, great. All I have is good memories of my summer vacations with my cousins, with other members of our family. We would all gather together, spend like months in our summer house, which is still in the city called Bodrum, which is actually where the production of Heraclea is also based.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, very fond memories.
Incredible. So I'm curious, growing up, maybe what were your parents doing at that time? What were some of your interests growing up? Was it entrepreneurship, athletics? What did that look like for yourself?
My father was a medical doctor, but he was also, I would say, very entrepreneur spirited. He started his own company, uh, his IVF clinics, basically, and it grew and did so well for him. And I think I got my risk taking from him.
Hmm.
He would always tell me, just start from where you want to end at.
Mhm.
Make sure the beginning is like where you want to be at the end,
Yeah.
which basically means to me just go all in, because give it your all.
Yeah.
Don't be scared if you're doing something good. If you believe in what you're doing, eventually, at some point you'll be successful.
Yeah. I love it. So, kind of step back, and I know you foreshadowed a little bit about your journey, but coming to the States and the decision to go to school here, I know you went to UCLA for undergrad and then you went to law school. So, kind of paint the picture of that roadmap. What interested you in law, coming to the States and those schools specifically as well?
Um, you know, we're still discussing this within our family. I don't really know how I ended up wanting to become a lawyer in the U.S.
Mhm.
But that was my ambition from the moment I came here. Like before even coming, I planned this all through, that I would go to college and then I would apply for law school, become an attorney. At the time I was thinking of becoming an M&A attorney. I
Mhm.
don't even know why. Um, but then I I think it was also due to the fact that I think at some point in his life, my father wanted to be a lawyer, but ended up being a medical doctor.
Mm.
Um, uh, but I enjoyed my time. I have to say. I mean, I studied economics at UCLA because I was also very interested in antitrust law, which is what I did after law school.
Mhm.
I worked at a place called American Antitrust Institute. We would basically write amicus briefs to appellate and Supreme Court cases.
Mm.
And yeah, I enjoyed my time doing all of that, but I just realized that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that's how I started thinking about, what are some possible, next steps for me that I can do that will, really, um, with high conviction. I work with high conviction. I have to
Yeah.
really truly believe in what I do, and it
Mhm.
should, very like much motivate me from inside. Otherwise, I can't keep doing.
Yeah.
You know.
No, kind of grabbing your point you mentioned a couple minutes ago about when you decide on something, you go all in, and kind of having that law background and then entering into the unknown of entrepreneurship. Kind of what fascinated you with around olive oil in particular, and also kind of entrepreneurship, that to take that next step? What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, First of all, I love olive oil, not because like I'm doing it. I've been loving olive oil. That's my go-to thing with everything.
Hmm.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, over your eggs, salads, anything. You just
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I always use every time, any
Hmm.
day, all day. And I grew up with that, so that's the culture. We would cook with olive oil. We would cook our vegetables in olive oil.
Hmm.
Just it's in every part of our cuisine, and I was so fond of it that when I came here, I the only options that I had were Italian, Spanish, Greek, and other olive oils, but not Turkish olive oil,
Mm.
which is like, not to say that it's like so superior, but it's a thing of its own. And I was actually shocked to see that it was not like well represented in the market. Which my entrepreneurial side started to kick in, and I was like, well, I know that Turkey is a top producer in the world, actually second to Spain.
Hmm.
I know Turkish olive oil is like the top five imported olive oils in terms of volume to the United States.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's shocking to see there is zero Turkish olive oil brands in any of the major retail stores, like grocery chains or anywhere. You don't see it,
Yeah.
and I wondered why. And I thought like this was my, you know, this was like my advantage. I think I was maybe one of the few people to really see this, and I thought that was my moment. Okay, like this is it. Like this, there's no Turkish olive oil brand, although it's like the top consumed olive oil in the world in the U.S. But you
Yeah.
just don't know it. If you turn back the label of any bottle, you're gonna see like the oil is coming from XYZ and Turkey, but you just don't know that you're consuming Turkish olive oil, but you already are. So
Interesting.
I said, um, let's do it, and I that's how I started.
Interesting. So I'm curious, at that point, where did you look for like sourcing, kind of those sourcing partners? What did that look like for you for that prototyping stage?
Um, so my family had owned olive groves even before we started Heraclea.
Hmm.
Uh, so we had the farm. I would say, anyways, it's not a farm. It's more like naturally planted trees on the skirts of like some mountains by the Aegean Sea.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful environment. Everything is natural. We uh, we would we would still produce the oil, but we would not like sell it. We would give it to family and friends, consume it ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, um, when I decided to turn this into a business idea, of course, we approached it with a more professional look, and we invested in a facility where we pressed the olives, where we stored the pressed olive oil and bottling, because that's the most important part of olive oil production, which I learned when so I first came up with the idea, and then I went to Spain to took a course in olive oil, tasting, olive grove
Hmm.
management, olive oil facility management, and all that, like all parts of the supply chain I was educated on. And then I went to Turkey
Hmm.
and told my family, okay, we need to invest in this and that. So we acquired more land, we built a facility.
Wow.
Um, and in a matter of a year, I think we did the branding and everything. And it's a big investment because it's a vertically integrated company now
Yeah.
that is cultivating its own olives, harvesting them, pressing them, storing, bottling, and selling. Everything is done under one roof. And
Hmm.
I think that's essential. And this is because what my father told me, start from where you want to end up,
I love that.
right? So I end up being the owner of high quality olive oil producer that is vertically integrated, that is doing good to itself, its environment, its
Hmm.
farmers, its and then of course its end users, consumers.
Yeah.
So we did all this from scratch, and then we got into the market
I love
without
it.
having one single customer.
Wow. So, so I mean, just to backtrack as myself, like in the past couple of years, I've become a huge fan of olive oil. Like you mentioned, like using it in all of my meals. Like I used it this morning. Um, but I'm curious to look at some of the labels because as you mentioned, like you say, like Turkish or Turkish made will be in the back of labels, but we just don't know it.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to try the product. But to get into, I mean, the amazing heritage story behind Heraclea with still using the family farm today. What did that next step of like the branding side look like? So why Heraclea, and what does that mean to a consumer as well?
So we're investing in our own supply chain. So one thing that we're doing right now that I'm very, very proud of, that is like, how I said I need to be motivated to do what I'm doing,
Yep.
is our fair trade certification. We are the first olive oil company in the world to be fair trade certified.
Hmm.
And basically what it means is we've started giving premiums to our farmers and workers from the sales we do in the United States.
Hmm.
This is about 50 cents, dollar cents per 1 liter of olive oil. And my goal is to, sell hundreds of thousands of liters of olive oil so that the premium collected amounts to hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
which workers and farmers have formed a committee where they vote and make decisions on how to spend that premium. And my goal is, of course, the premiums right now are not like too big, a couple of $1,000s, but the goal is to get it hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year through. If Heraclea is successful, the fair trade program will be
Hmm.
successful. They're super very much tied to one another, and then these farmers and workers will invest in their communities through a
Hmm.
democratic process. And this is the kind of thing that I feel like we can differentiate on from other breads, because there are thousands of brands in anything, like even in olive oil I would say maybe there's 1,000 brands selling on the market right now.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, well, yes, we have invested in our supply chain to make sure our olive oil is very high quality. Those are given.
Hmm.
But I think that we don't need another like 1,001st brand. I think we need a brand. I think we need companies that
Yep.
make something different. And my take on that is to revolutionize the supply chain, because it's a very traditional product. It's a
Hmm.
very traditional market. You can only do so much, uh, different things than your
Yep.
competitors. So what the real things you can do is give your profits back to workers, empower them so that they do their own things. And those types of projects are the things that we can do differently, which we have
Yep.
started doing, and I'm so proud and excited about it.
Incredible. So that first rollout you mentioned, you built this whole supply chain. No customers yet at that point. You
Yeah.
launched in 2023. So what did that go to market look like for you guys? Did it start D2C? Did you have some retail doors? I'm curious. What did that look like?
Yeah, it started D2C. We actually, I never, we didn't have a formal business plan.
Yep.
I get some criticism for that, but I don't believe in doing business plans because you're biased. It's your own company. You're
Mhm.
biased. You want it to be successful, and I think every prediction that you will make will be towards that. And
Mhm.
I think there's a high chance that you will not, like, you will either exceed or stay below the predictions you make in those business plans. So
Yep.
as long as you go all in and do your best, I think that's the best, that's the best business plan.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, we started D2C. We didn't have wholesale in mind, but then we realized that there's interest in our products in wholesale. So we started getting into some major retailers as well. We're in a lot of locations in the Northwest region, in Texas. We've started getting into a good amount of places on the East Coast,
Hmm.
mostly like co-ops and infra stores at this point, because they're very much interested in the fair trade program.
Yeah.
But the product is also gaining attention from major retailers, soon to be announced.
Awesome.
But yeah, so we're both doing D2C and wholesale at this point.
Incredible. So fully vertically integrated, what does that look like once you source the product and then maybe bring it back to the States? I'm assuming primarily the U.S. is where you're selling.
Yeah.
So what does that look like as far as like a transportation and logistics standpoint?
Well, we have, like I said, a facility in Turkey and a
Mhm.
warehouse in the US.
Got
We
it.
have 7 full-time employees in Turkey. And then during harvest, that number goes up to 30 with seasonal and part-time workers.
Hmm.
Um, so it basically means we're at every stage of production, like I said, from harvesting to pressing to bottling. And then the US company, which I'm working at with some other people, we're doing our best efforts to sell the product. And then when we're low inventory, we're reaching to our Turkish company. It's
Hmm.
a parent company,
Yeah.
to ask them to make another production, which they do. And then it goes on like that. But I think for me, maybe it's a little bit more difficult
Hmm.
um, on my day-to-day business because there's a 7-hour time difference. Um, I'm also the manager of the Turkish facility,
Hmm.
overseeing the production there as well. Of course, I have people on the field, but it's really at the end of the day the owner that is making the
Yeah.
decisions. So my mornings are usually dealing with the stuff in the Turkish company, and then my
Wow.
afternoons are dealing with the US stuff, whether that be marketing, sales, events, or anything else.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would like to tap into that a little bit more because that's super fascinating. I don't hear that often actually. So, as far as like your team looks like, the team build out. So, I mean, you're working pretty aggressive morning, evenings. But what does the team in Turkey look like, and then the team in the U.S. kind of look like as a management standpoint, so you can quality control as well.
Yeah, so in Turkey, it's mostly like we have a quality control manager. We have
Mhm.
a food engineer that is helping us with our new products. We, for example, like in the last 6 months, released flavored oils. That was not
Mhm.
a thing when we first launched, but this new hire helped us come up with the products for the flavored oils. So uh, the quality manager is overseeing the production, and then we have 3 full-time that are on the field, olive grows, taking care of the trees because there's pruning, soil management,
Mhm.
weed management, and all sorts of things. We have around 20,000 olive trees at this point. That's what
Wow.
we were able to count. And you need to take care of these in order for them to give you a good yield when the harvest season arrives.
Yeah.
So there's 3 people doing that. There's another
Mhm.
guy that is managing coordination between the facility and the fields. Another person doing purchases. So that's a full, like, it's almost like a traditional
Yeah.
company team structure,
Yep.
accountants and all that. Here, it's more like a startup. That's me and a group of people that are not full time, that are more in like independent contractors,
Hmm.
helping me with sales, marketing, and all of that. But of course, the coordination in between all of these teams,
Yeah.
um, the logistics of it, like I'm managing. One day I'm designing or overseeing the design of an email. The next day I am getting freight quotes.
Yeah.
The next day, I am looking at proposals for a machinery that is like out of this world for like olive pressing or something else. So
Yeah.
it's like everything from everywhere in one plate, and sometimes that's a little too much. I
Hmm.
mean, there are days where I'm not gonna lie. There are days when I tell myself, uh, would it have been better if we had a co-packer and just like focused on the brand side of things? But then the next day we have a dinner with farmers when I'm in Turkey for the fair trade program, and I see real people's faces, and I'm like, okay, this is the reason why we're doing this. I'm so glad that we're doing this way. I know it's so much harder than managing just a D2C brand,
Yeah.
but every good thing comes with its own other things.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm okay with having more stuff on my plate, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I feel like it's really worth it.
No, I have so much respect for full vertical integration, especially a startup launching just a couple years ago and deciding to do that. You don't see that often. So to the listeners out there, majority are probably aware of like your traditional olive oil that you might use with your cooking. But tapping into some of the new offerings you mentioned, so you have some new flavors. I know like lemon infused, garlic. What what does that look like as like an olive oil consumer standpoint? Like, what decided you guys to take that route, and especially those flavors as well?
Well, we got feedback from our customers basically asking us to do flavored oils.
Hmm.
That was not something we had in our minds. But when we heard from like a lot of people saying, "Oh, do garlic olive oil, do chili olive oil," like we would love to see it, and then we started working on those products. So it's really about the customer feedback, and I think what those products offer is one number one, like full transparency. You would know, we use very high quality olive oil to make our flavored oils.
Hmm.
So a lot of companies, you this is actually a label tactic that I'm about to say, but like if you go back and look at the ingredients in any in some flavored oils, you will see ingredients saying olive oil and not extra virgin olive oil.
Mm.
That is a quality distinction that only like label experts know.
Yeah.
But if it just says olive oil under ingredients, it means it's not high quality olive oil.
Hmm.
And that's got to do with the free acidity percentage of the oil that I'm not going to go into, but it
Yeah.
just means it's not high quality olive oil. So some companies flavor their low quality oils and then sell it as flavored oils, which is good for them. But I don't like to do it that way. We don't like that. So we use our early harvest high quality extra virgin olive oil
Hmm.
and flavor it with organic non-GMO presses of the relevant, like whether it's if it's garlic, it's the oil of that garlic that you can fully trace back, and it
Incredible.
go for all the flavors. And these products just offer you convenience. Of course you can get like regular extra virgin olive oil from us, dice your garlic, and on the pan, kind of get that infusion yourself.
Yeah,
Or you can just buy the garlic infused extra virgin olive oil and use it that it's
for
depending
sure.
on how much convenience you want with your pantry staples, basically.
For sure. No, for sure. No, I can see the convenience because I mean, I use my extra virgin olive oil with steak, and then I dice garlic, and then with my salmon, I use lemon. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I just got the products yesterday to the listeners, and I'm really excited to see that convenience also play part because that's what I always do. I always pair my olive oil and lemon with salmon, garlic, olive oil with my steak. That combination's always good. As we look in, as far as like the marketing goes, what do you find works well for the brand? Because I mean, it's a brand that's like you mentioned, conventional, just like some others that people might see in the retail store. What makes the brand stand out? What marketing works well for the brand? I would assume the story for sure
yeah.
too.
So we have a full team of marketing experts that are doing, social media, email marketing. We design shelf talkers for our retail partners. A lot of things. And sometimes it gets too complicated, and I like to go back to the basics when it gets too complicated, because it's just like a bunch of numbers, and like we spent this much, we made this much. Um, all good, perfect. It's got to be that way.
Hmm.
But what I really like, that, and I know that resonates with customers, is the transparency.
Hmm.
Like if you are truly transparent in your social media posts. We made a post the other day on Earth Day, and it was me and my face. I was talking, and there were farmers and etc. That post generated more organic reach than any post that was like very well designed and thought for,
Yeah.
speaking to one specific aspect of content creation. That simple post of me talking to customers, celebrating their Earth Day, and a bunch of other things, did so much well than a very like thoughtfully designed some
Yeah.
other post. So I like that transparency. I like that face to face interaction. I've started doing more of that because again, I realized that's one thing that I like about marketing
Mhm.
is to bring the faces behind the products that you consume.
Yeah.
So with us, the women that work at the farm to harvest the olives, and the guy who presses the oils. You see everyone, like like you get this bottle and everyone behind it. You see their
I love it.
faces. I think it connects you more to the product, to the brand. It
For sure.
increases brand loyalty. Maybe it's not like. Uh, you don't know the ROAS immediately, but I think long term, these things are the best investments you can make
Yeah.
for your company.
I love it. No, and to your last point there, that's actually the reason I starting small is I was eating syrup and I looked at the syrup bottle, or I was eating breakfast and I looked at the syrup bottle and there was a heritage story and that resonated. And there's a story behind all the brands we know and consume, and especially like Heraclea, the incredible story you guys have. And that's, I mean, I could definitely see that being very effective in the marketing you guys are doing. Um, Taking that into account, what would you say is the primary demographic of consumers that you have for the brand?
It's really people between the age of 25 and 44.
Mhm.
That's like over 60-70% of our customers. But I would say age is not like a big factor. It's more about like as you get more mature, I think you become more conscious
Mhm.
and curious about the things you consume because your body is your temple and you want to make sure like only the good things go in it.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that explains the
Mhm.
age group. um,
Yep.
but it's really about being conscious about your purchases, about what you consume. And if you're fitting in that category, you eventually, like speaking for olive oil, there are not many brands that are doing it the way we do it. So you
Mm.
somehow, in some place, see us either on social media or somewhere else, and then you dig more into it and you
Yeah.
like it and become a loyal customer.
Yeah. Incredible. So kind of concluding here slowly, what as far as the olive oil specific products goes, if you can kind of paint the picture to a listener, like what is like, for example, like a harvest line of like early and mature, like what is the comparison of those two and kind of paint that picture?
Yeah. So early harvest basically means olive oil made from green unripe olives. We typically harvest them in October. That's when the harvest starts. And as you go deeper into the season, the so a lot of people think green and black olives are two different varieties. They're not. It's the
Mm.
same olive, same fruit. It just changes in color as you transition
Yeah.
from October to November to December. It ripens and changes its color. So as it starts to change from green to purplish before going full black, that's when we make the mature harvest. So it's usually in November.
Mm.
And then from purplish to more black going into December is when we make the everything oil, the 1 liter tin.
Got it.
And the difference is basically it's the same olives, it's the same quality, it's just different taste profiles because unripe green olives are more fruity, a little more peppery, purplish, still have that fruitiness, but not as intense as the early harvest. And
Hmm.
as it turns black, we make the everything oil, which is a very versatile oil, not too peppery at all, very mellow and balanced.
Mm.
I'm not going to say drizzle your early harvest on your cheese because some people like to do it with the everything oil. It's just
Yeah.
what you like. Like it really depends on
Hmm.
what you like. Some people don't like that peppery taste. Other people love it. So
Mm.
it's really about what you like, and we're able to offer all three because we're harvesting
Mm.
ourselves.
Yeah. Incredible. Well, Burke, I like to conclude each episode with this. Such an incredible story so far. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret along the way, what would you say that would be?
So first of all, no regrets.
I like that.
That's how I approach.
Yep.
I really like my father's saying, which made me go into this, is start from where you want to end up. I think that's a very powerful line if you think about it.
Hmm.
What I'm going to add to it is don't listen to anyone but yourself. I
Hmm.
know maybe it sounds a little bit arrogant, but at the end of the day, when you want to start something new and you share those ideas with people around you, they may not be in it as much as you are, and they may not know how it may turn out as much as you do, because they just don't have the necessary information to make an informed decision like you do. So
Hmm.
so trust your feelings, trust your gut, and if you feel for it, go for it. That's what I will say.
I love it. Well, Berk, incredible. Thank you so much for joining me. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Heraclea at Heraclea,
Heraclea.
.com, .co. I'll make sure
Echo.
that link is in the description as well.
Thank you so much.